against Draven, Piltover, and Zon. Not sure if it's Ezreal or Caitlyn. We'll find out in a little bit.
All right, well, I guess it's a good thing we don't have the second hand, because up top would get quite annoying there, but... So here we go. Ravenous Flock going to take care. And another plunder deck. So two decks. Just to remind everybody from, if you weren't here for Asia SEA, two decks we saw a lot of in Asia SEA a little bit earlier this morning. And by this morning, I mean midnight. We had a lot of Barrier, Shen Jarvan, and a lot of Plunder. Both of these decks coming in big. And as I so astutely figured out, the reason why we're playing Plunder is to get Bandle Trees from the opponent's deck. So we'll see if that's going to be the way to victory here.
This morning was a little wild and all over the place, between stealing Bandle Trees for near reverse victories to Shroom victories via the Bandle Tree deck. I don't think that necessarily set the tone for the day, but these are decks that we're going to see a lot. And hey, the day is young. We're going to see a lot more action happen. Anything could happen here at the first Legends of Runeterra World Championship qualifier. But for now,
I like that.
Things looking pretty even in terms of both cards in hand and the board state and the life totals.
I like that. The first. Aloof Traveler. Yeah, pretty even. Aloof Traveler, you get the 3/3 Yordle Grifter with the 3/3 Draven there as well.
Think about it, Doza. We were the first casters to cast the Legends of Runeterra World
Ooh,
Championship.
I like that.
Comes later,
I like that.
We did it first.
I like that.
Technically world.
This is technically a world's first, and we can say we did it. I like that. I like that, Boulevard.
I'm putting that in my Tinder bio.
Finding the oh yeah, there's that Tinder clout.
That's going in the Tinder
all
bio.
this time you've been looking for Tinder clout with Legends of Runeterra. We found it. We nailed it.
Since I got new Tinder clout to put in, and it looks like we're gonna take a trade onto the Aloof Travelers with the Draven. When the axe came out, I assumed Whirling Death, but no, we just wanted to make a trade onto the Travelers, and that means the board is going to be very slightly in SeaWorms' favor.
Yeah, and a couple warning shots in hand that we see Owie hovering here. We have the Gangplank on turn 6 as well. I'm not sure. Did you catch the hover? Is what Gangplank's at? I just missed it there.
No.
So, a little unfortunate.
I ain't even going to lie. I just straight up missed it.
I think Black Market Merchant is actually not active. So, yeah, that is going to force a warning shot. And there we go. Now they're both leveled. Sejuani and Gangplank levels. So that's going to be big coming into Owie's next attack turn. There's a Tri-Beam, yoink.
Funny enough,
we can't up it at all.
Because the
we reduce the cost.
Historically, there are not many 3-mana cards in the NAB deck. Usually it'll be nothing other than the Monkey Idol.
Yep.
There's probably one 3-drop that I'm forgetting about, but Monkey Idol's the one that always stands out to me. All right, here we go. If we can steal another Tri-Beam, it'll be a 3-mana Tri-Beam, and we can use that to proc our other Tri-Beam.
Yeah, that's a little ways out, Boulevard. That's gonna take a little while. We got 2 attacks coming in from Aloof Travelers. I mean, listen, I got to agree. SeaWorms a little ahead on board here, but this could be an opportunity for Owie to go ahead, toss down a Gangplank, and go into having the attack token with Gangplank. So, yeah, I do love this Arachnoid Sentry. Shuts down this Ezreal attack. Also still leaves up that mana for Gangplank. And puts SeaWorms in kind of an awkward position where I don't really think SeaWorms is going to want to go ahead and take this attack here. This might prompt some other resource. Yep, we got the Boom Baboon. So I like Gangplank. Problem with Gangplank. That leaves 5 mana open for SeaWorms still. We have things like Thermo Beam. We have things like Tri-Beam, which we see on the side of Owie. Just going to take it where we can get it. We're going to go ahead and use it on the Aloof Travelers and get... Okay, that's not that great. That kind of feels bad. But what else were you expecting with a Flower Child? Yeah, good challenge. Okay, you tried challenging me there.
I did.
Yeah,
I straight up did. I thought you
win.
didn't know the name
all
of
right.
the card. But it looks like we did grab the Twin Sisters, which does mean that we are probably not playing Ice Shards. We are playing the Twin Sisters version. Generally, you're not seeing both of those. Entreat is still on the table, as is Babbling Beard, but yeah, probably not playing Ice Shard. But here comes the Gangplank that you were so excited about for some reason. Not as good as an open attack Gangplank. You know, we could see an Arachnoid Sentry. We could see a Thermogenic Beam, a Tri-Beam Improbulator. All kinds of things could kill this big old pirate.
For some reason. Yeah, because Gangplank's not important in this deck or anything. He's not that great. He's all right. I don't know why I'm so excited. Yeah, you're right, Bull. Especially leveled up. Getting the keg. I mean, it doesn't clear the board. You know, we do have 2 3 health units here. And ooh, this is probably going to set up a kill on the Gangplank, though. I imagine
That's
Flock and a block.
fine, though, because Gangplank, unlike Talia, unlike Vladimir, his ability goes on the stack. He doesn't care if he dies in the process. It's still going off. That's still going to be 2 damage going on to every unit on SeaWorms field, as well as their face.
All right, here it is. Powerful Explosion on the stack. Let's see what SeaWorms is going to go ahead and throw down here in response. If Flock alone, unfortunately, will not kill it. And yep, it's just a Scorched Earth. So Scorched Earth coming in big here, and probably throughout the tournament as well. I mean, maybe one of the reasons why people are thinking to bring, you know, these Caitlyn decks a little bit more. Scorched Earth on the side of Noxus, very big for, you know, that landmark removal if you do come across some of these Bandle Tree decks that we've been seeing so much of. And also comes in big for removing those big old units here like Gangplank. So good on the side of SeaWorms, but Owie seeming a little bit ahead now in card advantage and even board presence.
Yeah, we get a kill onto the Ezreal thanks to that Make It Rain top deck off the Aloof Travelers. We still have mana for our second Black Market Merchant. Gonna go ahead and nab us a cute little draw engine here, because honestly, I don't think we really need this warning shot all the way on the left side of our hand anymore. That could be a nice little discard target.
All right, Draven coming down. Got a spinning axe. I mean, it's looking rough for SeaWorms Boulevard. Even more draw, too. Coming in with Betty Croker.
Ooh,
another
Gangplank
Gangplank. Oh.
Station Archivist, what can we find? Only a couple options. I really like Station Archivist.
I like it, too. I think this is the card I think people started experimenting with the most when this...
It was sort of the most obvious tech, right?
Yeah, yep. It's very, very good here. That 3 mana as well. Ooh, there's a Dreadway. This is looking good. This is looking good for Owie. And now we still have 5 mana open. I don't see any reason why Owie doesn't end this turn with a Gangplank coming down. And oh yeah, only 2 mana left for SeaWorms. You got to throw down this Gangplank. You got to be feeling real good right now.
If I'm seeing this correctly, it's kind of hard to tell because of Owie's subbar. There's only 1 card in hand for Beastworms. There's a Spinning Axe alongside that 1 card, but there's only 1 real potential threat in the hand.
SeaWorms, Beastworms. I guess it's the same thing.
Did I say Beastworms?
You said Beastworms.
That
Although
sound like me.
I am very surprised Owie just passed that turn, because that did give SeaWorms the opportunity to go ahead and pass back, and that means no Gangplank coming off the open attack. I don't think it's really a big deal. We have way more cards than SeaWorms right now. We have Dreadway that we're getting down. I mean, things are looking really good for Owie.
We actually have Lethal, because that is every card out of SeaWorms' hand. We can 3 Sisters, and okay, it looks like... So we're going to go for the Fury of the North. I was thinking we could just Fury the Zap Sprayfin, attack for 5, and parlay on the next turn, and there's nothing SeaWorms is able to do about that, but saving the Dreadway is just as good.
Yeah, I mean, so this Zap Sprayfin is also still going to do 4 damage thanks to Dreadway. So I think either way works out, like you said. The problem is, yeah, I think you just go in with Zap here. I don't know if there's actually a reason to go in with everything else. Is that a Preservationist that was randomly generated? All right, I mean,
yes, it is.
I can't complain. It's not terrible. It's a 4/4, but
it's not the worst 5-drop you could have hit, but you would have really liked an elusive. I think like Abyssal Eye probably would have been your best bet. Yeah, it'll still trade with the Zap because the Dreadway is surviving, but you know, at least you're not taking that elusive damage. But I guess it doesn't really matter, right? This is looking like it's going to be over.
Well, crucially, it is outside of the range. Or, never mind, it's not outside of the range of Parlay, because Dreadway is going to buff it up, deal 2 damage, and it's still going to go ahead and close things out.
Well, you probably just aim Parlay at the Nexus, right? Or we can go for this. We can go for the. Oh, we're spinning axing.
Well, I mean.
Okay, so that we can play the Twin Blade Revenant. But yeah, now the Parlay gets to come down instead of the Yordle Grifter for the warning shot. Either way, it's going to be a lethal thanks to that Dreadway. Boom, 2 damage on the Nexus, and Owie picks up a game win here in what we think is round number 2 and not the end of round number 1.
I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that that's game 1 as well, but we should see here in a second once we get back a new client. And yep, it looks like Owie is up 1-0 right now on SeaWorms. So we'll see how far we can go here. Actually, let me see if Owie. Do we know if Owie won the first?
We don't. You can check, but Owie brought TF Swain.
Ooh.
This is a deck that we were not expecting to see, and a lot of players quoting specifically cards that this Darkness deck plays. You know, Mini Morph onto the Leviathan really takes out some of those threats, not to mention that Leviathan is hands down going to be the most expensive card in your deck and can get discarded by that Aloof Travelers. So based on, you know, sort of the low amount of threats that you find in a TF Swain deck due to the comparative to the high threat kill potential in a Darkness deck, this is looking like a really bad matchup for Owie on paper.
So quick update to everybody too. So OE is actually in the losers bracket. OE lost to PCS Flaxu in the first round.
Ooh, teammates.
Yeah, teammates
I
going
get a team kill there early in the World Championship. I love it.
Yeah, 2-0 lost there. And then PCS Flaxu actually lost to Spikes. So just some important notes here. In the winners bracket, we currently have Ragnarosic, Grand Rodeo, who I have not heard of, Kwabachi.
Are you just gonna name everyone in the winners bracket?
No. Just who's basically, so these are the people that have made it through to, they're 2-0 right now in the winners bracket.
Okay.
So we got
we can do that in between rounds. Stop talking.
Spikes. I'm doing it. I like doing this.
Fine.
Spikes and Camillari.
I think you're naming 16 players.
And Nowatics. No, that's it. There's yeah, there's
because you're only naming the ones that already ended.
God, you really hate hearing me talk that much? Jesus, Boulevard.
It's just weird when you're listing off names.
So yeah, that's basically who's 2-0 right now in the EU winners bracket. So I did that because there's, I mean, Nowatics, Camillari, and Spikes. I mean, those are some awesome names to already be 2-0 here. So I'm very curious to see who ends up making the top cut for a couple weeks for Worlds. Oh, Grand Rodeo won last EU Masters for Turkey. Okay. Thank you, chat. Oh, that's yo, Panda. What's up? Of course, Panda. Of course, Panda would know that. All right, so we got a couple units going in here. Definitely excited, like you mentioned, Boulevard. I know this is one of your favorite decks, TF Swain. Definitely excited to see.
I have abandoned it with the release
that
of Beyond
bad.
the Gunwood.
Oh,
Tossed it to the side.
Oh, so you're just on the bandwagon? So if it's not a good deck, you're just tossing it to the wind. You don't like it anymore? Jesus.
Why would I play a bad deck?
Oh, okay. All right. I see what you're doing. All right.
So here's the fun part, right? Where you're gonna have this discussion of like, OE brought TF Swain. How can you say it's a bad deck? Currently he's 0-1. So if he loses here, then he went 0-2 with it. Just because somebody brings a deck doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best choice. But I know that in case you missed my spiel earlier, Doza, because you had crud in your ears, which is a hallmark of yours. On paper, terrible darkness matchup. Aloof Travelers kill Leviathan, kill Swain. Mini Morph against light threat deck. Does that all shake out for you? You get all that?
Oh yeah, no, makes sense 100%. Mini Morph, huge.
And it looks like we are going to be able to zap Sprayfin into a Make It Rain to make sure that the Vigor does go down despite the stress defense.
Yeah, stress defense seeing a lot of play, and generally what it's used for is exactly what we just saw from SeaWorms, being able to save champions like that. But, I mean, in a deck like TF Swain, I mean, you have plenty of removal. You have these flocks. You have the Make It Range. You have things to clean up the board. So I think we will be able to deal with things like Vigar here and there as they come down. We do have Otterpuss coming down for SeaWorms. I will say, you know, a lot of people, when this hand control stuff started coming out, right, all these pranks, I know a lot of people thought, I feel, that these were very, very strong effects, but I don't think they've had nearly the impact on the environment as much as we thought they would.
I don't know that that is due to the relative strength of prank as a mechanic, or if it's because there's just not a lot of Bandle City decks. Like, there's Bandle Tree, which does not really want to play the prank mechanic. It doesn't synergize with what the deck is trying to do. There's Zoe Fizz, which will usually play the prank engine just because you can, you play the spell that makes the Otterpuss, that makes the prank, and all of a sudden, you got 3 mana, 2 spells. That's pretty good value. And of course, you're going to see it in not all, but some of the darkness lists, and that's really about it.
Yeah, 100%. And, with prank too, let me ask you, Boulevard, when you prank something and you get a spell or a unit, are you kind of insta-locking the spell?
If I'm being honest, I have never pranked anything in my life.
Jesus,
but
wow.
it does feel like 90-95% of the time you just auto-take the spell.
Yeah, the extra 2 cost just seems so much better than any of the debuffs on any of the units, so got to agree with you there, and maybe that has something to do with it as well. But we have OE going decently wide here, starting to accumulate some units on board. We got the Zap Sprayfin as well. Also 2 Twisted Fate in hand. With some draw, I don't think we're ever leveling the Twisted Fate. It's probably going to get taken off the board by then, but, just darkness and things of that nature. Just way too much removal versus TF Swain here. And I got to agree. I think darkness long-term versus this deck is going to be able to hold out and win. So we'll see what happens on the side of SeaWorms here. I will say, darkness, I think the few other times we've seen it, Boulevard, hasn't really been super impressive. In this matchup in particular, it does seem like like you mentioned, this darkness deck probably has the advantage here, but not super impressed with darkness today.
What it will struggle to deal with here is actually exactly what Owi's doing, which is going wide. You know, we
Mhm.
mentioned you have mini morph onto the Leviathan. You have these great tools to deal with Swain and Leviathan. But what the Darkness deck doesn't really have is sweepers.
Mhm.
Because it is sort of like Viego Ionia, you know, it's sort of like this unit-based control deck where you do play a lot more units than something like Anivia or Spooky Karma. Generally, we're not seeing Ruination in these decks.
Yeah.
And not being a Freljord Shadow Isle deck, obviously you don't have access to Avalanche or Blighted Ravine. You don't have kegs to pair with your Withering Wail.
Mhm.
If your opponent just puts 6/2/2s on the board, that's not something you deal with particularly effectively. You can try and trade your board into it, but against something like TF Swain specifically, where they have kegs and red cards,
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to match them on board.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Darkness does have something like Withering Mist, right? It's not necessary. It's not quite an avalanche, right? It's not. It's not going to clear the entire board, but getting rid of 2 units and still being able to lifesteal back up as well still basically shuts down that entire attack from the board. Like, let's say there's 4 units,
Yeah.
4/2/2s.
It's kind of hard though, right? Because this isn't an open deck list tournament. You and I
Mhm.
don't know what's in these players' decks. The Darkness decks have been kind of all over the place. Some players play pranks, some players don't. Some players are still playing the slow spells like Withering Mists and Piercing Darkness and
Mhm.
saying, I'm pretty much always going to have Senna on the board. And some players have just said, hey, I don't want to rely that heavily on the Senna. Let me cut that package.
Yeah, I think one of the big cards, I don't think we've seen it come out yet from SeaWorms. I think one of the big up in the air cards for the Darkness deck is the Stilted Robe Maker. That's the one where, it's a 4-mana 3/4. When it's summoned, it reduces the cost of Darkness everywhere by 1.
Yes,
I see
that
it.
card that you explained because chat didn't know what it was and not me.
Exactly. See, I got you, Boulevard. Just keep it on the DL. It's fine.
Yeah, I got
So, and actually, I mean, missed call sometimes we see too. So there's definitely some variation in these Darkness lists for sure. But we do have Twisted Catalyzer coming in here. Could increase the Darkness damage a little bit. And I do think the way that SeaWorms is going to end up winning this game is going to be, just kind of dragging things out and using that kind of Vygar win condition that we're so used to seeing now with this deck. Going ham, going to the face with Vygar, possibly using something like the Ixtali Sentinel. I love the Ixtali Sentinel, by the way. It does so much for not just the win condition, but also just, it's a control-oriented deck, has that lifesteal attribute on there, so something else for Shadow Isles to kind of equal Radiant Guardian, if that makes sense, for Demacia. Kind of feels like that a little bit. So
Yeah, I am kind of curious as to whether or not Ixtali Sentinels is in the list because the lifesteal would actually go a long way here,
yeah.
right? I mean, Owi is kind of chipping down at the opponent. There's, as you had mentioned, a lot of opportunity for these big drain spells like Piercing Darkness and Withering Mist, but so far, SeaWorms hasn't played any of them.
Yep.
Looks like the Darkness is going to come down, but the Vygar's still not leveled.
All right, here's a Leviathan though. So I mean, maybe we can squeeze in a Leviathan Swain hitting the board here. I'm not sure, but there's just as I say that, you mentioned it earlier, Boulevard, like clockwork, we got the mini morph. And honestly, I've seen these Darkness lists. I've seen some of them play 3 stinking mini morph. I mean, it's that good of a card right now. It's pretty insane. Might as well be. It's Vengeance, but a little bit better. It's a little bit cheaper. Something to be said about.
It's not Vengeance.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of compare it to Vengeance because it is essentially deleting the unit. You're just getting that 3/3 replacing it, right?
I think it is incomparable to Vengeance for.
Well, we're gonna agree to disagree, Boulevard. Okay.
We'll move on from it. But what I did want to mention is that it's not comparable to Vengeance.
You are, dude. Oh my god.
Okay, now we can move on.
It's like Vengeance.
I can't believe you. Okay, so
all right,
what we are seeing here is a very wide attack from Owi. Actually, even throwing down the Sway and saying you only have 1 fearsome blocker at the moment. I will still have 2 mana available, which I don't think gives us a kill yet. Not going to be able to take out that Acolyte, but still a lot of damage being pressured by Owi here. SeaWorms, what do you got? You mini morph the Leviathan, but it stayed on board as a 3/3, which is not something you can ignore when you're only at 10 HP.
Oh yeah. There's Senna. Gonna generate a Darkness here. But yeah, Owi, you mentioned this earlier too, going wide, right? It's exactly what Owi's trying to do here. This is gonna force a lot of chump blocks. And this is gonna force, I mean, at least the Twisted Catalyzer blocking the Swain here. Yep. That gets tossed underneath instantly. We are even going to block with the Senna as well, which is going to put her within range of either the Ravenous Flock or the Scorched Earth in hand. Can't play the Ravenous Flock because it is has been pranked quite some time ago. and can't even play for the Scorched Earth, so it is going to have to be next turn. So SeaWorms could potentially open attack with the Senna, put the Darkness in hand on the stack, and get the additional Darkness in hand through Senna's attack effect on the open attack, and we'll see if that's what we get here.
Yeah, that's a pretty popular play that I've seen a lot of Darkness players make, so it's a little surprising to me that OE didn't use the Ravenous Flock to finish off that Senna at the end of round, because I think with that Acolyte Strike, the
pranked.
Darkness is up to 4 damage.
Yeah, we couldn't have used the Ravenous Flock because it's pranked. It's at 3 mana.
Oh, okay. It's hard to tell. The screen is so small because you make me watch through your text, so
it is, in your defense, it is a little blurry. so
now we're going to the Flock. Okay, that makes sense at least that it wasn't castable because it was pranked. I honestly forgot what happened to the Ravenous Flock that got pranked. Every time one of my cards has been pranked, I've discarded it.
It's like, this just isn't a card anymore. Forget it. Yeah. It's gone.
Speaking of discard, where's the Draven Scion, man?
Dude.
I haven't seen any Draven Scion.
That came out like a bat out of hell in the beginning of the set, man. Everybody was playing Draven Scion, and it's just fallen off a cliff, at least for competitive play. Because I do still see it on ladder, right? But we have yet to see it. But we could have just missed it. Maybe there's a whole other side of the bracket that's been playing it, right? We don't know.
Ooh, we get a little pokey stick. Yeah, now the hand looking real light from OE. It is still going to be a decent attack turn. We are going to threaten a fair amount of damage, but let's see what comes out here. There's a Twisted Fate off the top.
Yeah, Twisted Fate doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, Twisted Fate is literally just pay 4 mana to choose one of his wild cards, and then he's just going to get removed at some point. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's all Twisted Fate is in TF Swain, right? They never really played for the TF level up. If it happened, it happened. But for the most part, it was just play it, pick one of the cards.
Just seems so unimpactful in this matchup, unfortunately. Zap seems impactful, but again, darkness just every turn. We're just going to be getting rid of card after card after card. You know, OE has done a good job, again, just to reiterate that whole going wide strategy. We have done a good job of keeping those 2/2s on board and being able to slowly push this damage. I mean, SeaWorms is at 5. All right, this is... OE could potentially close this out. We were talking about how Darkness probably has this game. However, I've played a lot of Darkness myself. This is one of those decks similar to like Spooky Karma, things of that nature, that going low, you're not really worried about it. When you're playing things like Withering Mist, you're playing Triple Vile Feast, you're playing Withering Wail, like you have plenty of Piercing Darkness, right? You have plenty of things to heal back up. Ixtali Sentinel, if SeaWorms is playing it, you're not too concerned about going down to 5 health. So I think SeaWorms is okay depending on what's in hand.
From a casting perspective, it is a little spooky because we don't actually know which of the life gain cards SeaWorms is playing.
Yep.
You know, it could be all of them, it could be none of them. We're not actually sure because we didn't get to take a look at the deck list. So this 2 damage not going to be too threatening. You know, there's not really Noxian Fervor in these TF Swain lists anymore. That's not something that you see out of them. But it looks like OE might actually go for the double Ravenous Flock to clear out both blockers and push through a lethal attack, but it looks like we're actually only going to line up the 1 and say, you know what, Aloof Traveler is just a little bit too effective of a blocker here. We don't want to be taking any down trades. Let's clear that out, see what gets played from here. We still have Monster Harpoon mana.
Yeah, and there's the Ixtali. That is going to stuff a lot here. Now, we do have, actually, Monster Harpoon, super good here. Super good to get rid of this Ixtali Sentinel, so I love that. We do have Darkness, however, to clear one of these 2/2s out, right? I mean, that's the problem. For every little bit of progress OE makes removing a unit, SeaWorms just makes the same progress. It removes another unit. And we actually are going to get Miscall.
Wait, that could hit Aloof Travelers.
It hits Aloof Travelers. All right. OE probably feel pretty good about that, not going to lie. So, that's 2 damage push.
If that hit Ixtali Sentinel, this game would actually be so heavily back into SeaWorms' favor. But we did get rid of the Twisted Fate, which is actually pretty nice because that did represent a little bit more damage onto the Nexus. And now sitting on double Scorched Earth, that's really not what we want to be seeing. We have all of the kill a damaged unit stuff in our hand, but no way to actually damage the unit since the Twisted Fate was discarded. So the Aloof Travelers actually working out for SeaWorms there.
Yeah, there's something to be stated. I mean, Aloof Traveler is so good. Of course, the prank effect, and again, I did talk earlier about how it might be a little, you know, not as good as people initially thought, this prank effect, but a 3/4 body is pretty chunky, right? I mean, that's a Badger Bear. That's a Badger Bear with the prank effect, right?
No, it doesn't have a prank effect.
Oh, sorry, not prank. The discard a card,
Discard?
right? So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I see it always
like,
with
what do
prank
you think
cards.
Aloof
Yeah,
Traveler's done?
I knew
thought
that.
you
I
were gonna talk
promise.
about sort of the anti-synergy where like you make their spell cost more and then you discard their now useless spell because it's the highest cost card in their hand. But no, you were just talking out of your ass. Like it has prank.
You know what the issue is now? Everything that involves some sort of hand changing or altering effect, I'm just gonna think prank. Yeah, like that's just what I'm gonna think in my head. Which isn't necessarily. I mean, it's not a bad terminology for hand stuff, right? But
yeah,
I actually do like that.
Gonna get Zap Sprayfin down, and the darkness was used, and now we have a potential lethal if Zap connects with this Death's Hand. We'll see what SeaWorms has. There's a Vigar.
It's
but
leveled.
That's not healing. Granted, you know, I wouldn't have expected a spell there from SeaWorms. You have the Senna on field, so now we get the darkness. That's going to be able to kill this Zap Sprayfin, and that just might end the game in SeaWorms' favor, not being able to connect with the Zap.
I mean, we can get rid of Vigar eventually. I mean, we have the 2 Scorched Earth and we have the Death's Hand to damage the Vigar, but you're still going to have this this Senna on field as well, which is going to be the issue. And all of these are fast speed, right? Which we're seeing here. So I think
we actually get to kill both champions.
This is going to be where SeaWorms kind of... Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, we can... I was just going to say this is where SeaWorms, the advantage starts to go in SeaWorms' favor, but because we're blocking with Senna, we're actually able to get rid of both. Not this turn, probably next turn. But that is still going to be another darkness that's generated off of Vigar, which I do think is big, because when it all comes down to it, SeaWorms is now essentially 4 cards up on OE, because you got to imagine Death's Hand and Scorched Earth is going to be used next turn on the Vigar. You can't let Vigar sit around and continue to generate these darknesses turn after turn after turn. And yeah, we even see Death's Hand now just to really proactively go after this Vigar. I do think long-term SeaWorms is going to win out here. It's just a matter of how long are we talking? Because even if, like, Leviathan's probably the best top deck, right, for OE.
No, Death's Hand is the best top deck because we now have Lethal.
Yep, never mind. That just wins the game.
Allegedly.
Now, ooh. Okay. Any Vile Feast? I don't think we've seen any Vile Feast come out yet. We can always Vile Feast our own
Vile
unit.
Feast come out.
Oh, have we? Okay. So,
yeah, we used 2 of them earlier onto a Betty Croker.
That's not good.
So there is potential for OE to just steal this game with the Death's Hand.
There is also Withering Whale, potentially.
Potentially. But it's on the stack. We'll see what SeaWorms responds with. If there's nothing, OE just steals the game with back-to-back Death's Hands. And that's a GG Shen from SeaWorms.
Oh my god! The last card in OE's hand does it.